Sign up now at elevate.miami.edu for my course, Organized Rhyme.
Looking at the word legacy, while involving some wordplay, I'll use the first syllable to build upon. We'll use the first syllable, leg. For the second syllable, we'll use an. And for the third syllable, we'll use the word knee. So now we have leg and knee. Can we use it in context with legacy? Let's just see.
Wordsworth Productions with a S.com for all merch. I got 2 books available right now. Well, Words Are Worth Volume 1, and I also have a children's book called Socks. Age range from 12 to 15, so it's kind of like the middle school and high school age range, but adults can read it as well. What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of What Words Are Worth. And today, this is a special show for me because, you get super groups, and, in the super group, everybody in the super group is a superstar. So this has been like a blessing for me to have an interview with each one of these people in the super group. And today, I got Buddy Slim of the Juggernauts, man. I mean, we've always heard him rhyming. We know he makes the beats. But we need to find out, how does he do it all, and today you get to find out how he does it all, comes up with his sound, his lyrics and bars that'll make you a better producer, MC, and all. So let's get to it. So welcome to the stage, Buddy Slim. Let's get it. What's up, brother?
Peace, my brother. What's going on? What's going on? You already know. Jay's in the building. Jay's up. You know what I mean? Peace to my brother. Wordsworth, the wizard, just appreciate, what I mean, my brother, for this opportunity, and, love the platform and how you getting down,
So I wanted to ask, because I see the name Fever too, right? So when did the Buddy Slim and then Fever, how does that work together? So I have questions about like the origin of the names, because, so that way I could address it properly,
Hey, it's kind of one of those things where, like, old, like ODB. I don't even know who has the records for the most aliases. You know what I mean? It might be between like ODB and like Kool Keith, but I got a few myself. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? Buddy Slim. What that kind of was like. A Brewin inspiration, you know what I mean? Kind of like early on in the studio, and it kind of fit, you know what I mean? And thank God, you know what I mean? You could have called me, you know what I mean? Something else, the Slim kind of connotation helped. It's like, I can't let my body get all crazy and be called B Slim. That just, that's, and most times fat brothers, or bigger brothers, let's say, they always call Slim. Peace to my man Slim, be working on cars in the X. But yeah, so I'm grateful for the Buddy Slim. But the Fever, I think, was just like, that was almost like something that just came together. Like, it was like always loving the Fever itself and the mystique of that club back in the days. And then, strangely enough, like for me as a kid, for whatever reason, I used to have just incredible fevers as a kid. And I remember just like old school Caribbean way, just being thrown in ice baths. But like him hot, you know what I mean? Temperature 100 M3, throw him in the cool water, you know what I mean? So, so the Fever, I think, has been with me for a long time, and I just run hot. These days we just try to keep it, cool and clean. You know what I mean? But so yeah, but there's a lot of names: Tyrone Cash, you know what I mean? Buddy Slim, Pup Love. I mean, there's a few of them. I can't even remember right now. It's still early. The run-ins.
Yeah. So then what about the Juggernauts name? Because I had a, sister and brother on. I didn't even ask that. So now I was like, let me save that. Where did that name come from?
That was a funny one too. It's like, we go to, as always, as groups, you know what I mean? Different iterations, you think about like the name before Naughty by Nature and different people, all of us, we go through the things until we find something that fits. But yeah, we was a bunch of different names. We were like Silent Chaos, To the Left, You know, ragamuffins. It was a different iterations, and I just remember. I never forget it. It was just like because you know, Breeze was more like a DC collector. I was more the Marvel collector in the fam. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If he was going one way, I was going the other, and so you know, I was familiar with the name, and he came to me one day. He was just like, you know him, the way how y'all get down manipulating words and letters and sounds and vowels and all that. He was like, yeah, I kind of want to use that, but kind of, you know, go more to the original meaning of the word, you know, not really focusing on Juggernaut the character, but more the root of the word itself. And then he was just like, well, and I remember telling him, I was like, yeah, if you choose that, you know, by word by definition, mean we can't stop. No matter how bad this thing get, we still have to, you know, push forward. So I was just like, you know, it was really him who came to the table with that, and you know, it fit, you know, because that's big shoes to fill. You know, you can't call yourself the Superman group and be whack. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
You know, you gotta. And thank goodness that you know we try to lay down some music that was, you know, some, as I always call it, high avant-garde, hardcore hip hop. You know, just trying to say some real stuff on a high level, and of course, most importantly, on a high hip hop level. You know,
Yeah, and
we
and
hope.
speak
You know,
speaking of that, like the Clear Blue Skies. So there's the re-release of that. So as far as releasing high level music, that album is like a classic. You just had the re-release at Rough Trade, I believe. You even performed some of the songs. What was it like? So I got some questions about this album because now I get to ask some stuff about it. So so first off, writing the song Clear Blue Skies, what was that like, you know, once you got the concept together and then, you know, what was that like for you writing the song first?
that's another funny story. Like I said, it's it really started like a long time ago. Like you know, if people don't know the mo, like you know, born and raised in the Bronx, and then kind of like halfway through high school, you know, we dipped up to New Row. But you know, even Funny Breeze was saying this the other day. We, you know, we both still in the X now. Um, Things come back full circle. But I remember as a young youth, you know, for whatever reason, I don't know, I was just spacing out, and this was before anything. You know what I mean? It was just like you know, just as a kid vibing. I'm lying down in like a yard, and I'm just looking up at the sky and having a weird thought, like, you know what? It's sad, but certain people want to just see blonde hair and blue eye do well, kind of like the sky. They want everything just to
Mm,
be blue. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and it's funny in the times where we at now, where you know, trying to race to everything one way, one color,
yeah.
um, and don't know how where that came from at the time, and basically came to Breeze and was just like, yo, I want to do a song about racism, call it Clear Blue Skies. Maybe not even illustrating to him, you know, the thought that I had with myself at that present day. And I'm could have been like 12, 13. I don't even know what it was. You know what I mean? And it was a second. Then, you know, he brilliantly just came with his approach, how he wanted to have this conversation piece, and
Right.
the rest is history. But yeah, but it was an ill connecting of the dots in the universe, lining certain things to make that song happen. You know.
Yeah, and on that album, so I was listening to it, and then today I was listening to like the sound of it. So when you were working on that album, what were your influences that made you want to make these beats a certain way? And then, you know, what's dope about it is what I think my people gravitated to the album. Also, it was also like your own sound. Like, you know, if you listen to the album, it's not like anything else that was, I would say, previous and even after. So how did you get to that point of your own sound?
Oh well, thank you. First of all, you know, I just think you know, as all of us, we love this craft, and we just gonna put everything 1,000% into it. You know what I mean? Every verse I know you've written, it's just like you know, this is gonna stick, and you know, we hope the same thing with the music. You know, as I always say, hip hop is like word, sound, and power at the utmost level. And it was really a combination of a lot of things. Obviously, listening to people that was coming up at the time, and all of us being inspired. Of course, more notably, New York hip hop at the time. Um, and you know, strangely enough, all of us in different places, kind of moving with the same machinery. I think the whole insonic sound helped to play a part into the sound of the music. You know, strangely enough, I was playing ball in high school, and then I kind of like my first year we were like 19-3. Second year, you know, you starting to show that teenage angst and all of that,
Right.
and it was funny. I like smashed my hand into a glass at home, mad because my father said something. And like that Monday after, this was maybe a Friday, you know what I mean? Like we had
Yeah.
practice, and I'm like going to practice with a bloody hand. But it's just funny how things happen. So I didn't make my JV team. So like by my junior year, I started talking to the dude who was like the band leader in the school, and
Right.
he was like, you know, I'm upgrading my equipment. I'm selling this Insonic EPS. I'm like, yo, bet, run that. So that was really the inception of that whole first album, because I just think that sound and what that sampler did and what it allowed me to do, that probably couldn't have been done with other things at the time. I mean, I always say a good craftsman doesn't blame his tools. So whether it was the, you know, SP and you have this amount of seconds or stuff like that. But for me, how I create, it helped me to do what I do. Like what I do is that I just try to harvest as many sounds as I can. Sounds, a scream, drum sounds, different things. And then I started putting the clay together and melting it down. So, you know, I had some time to play with the sample time. It did different things in reference to having a sample and being able to play different octaves. And then, of course, you know, you get like the EPS output expander and try to get more than just two outs, so you could just kind of manipulate the sound a little bit more. But I
Right.
just think it was just a sign of the times and just the universe lining up things the right way, you know, getting that machine and then expanding after that. Because to me, that was like my favorite setup, like the MPC handling the drums, EPS handling the samples and all of that. And just even the grit it brought to it. Like we all know by now, SP has a certain sound, but
Right.
that EPS had a certain warm sound, and kind of like, you know, when you're looping something the right way, it's something magical. That's why we do this thing called hip hop, you know, just back to basics. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sil Johnson, is it, you know, funny we talk about clear blue skies and all that good stuff, and is it because, you know, I'm black? You know, the like you said, songs that try to tackle a monster, you know, in their own way, shape, and form. But my
Cool.
apologies on that. I didn't know it was
Nah,
coming in.
it's
I
all
didn't know it
good.
was coming in like that. Sorry.
I actually was like, I'm gonna be listening to you, and I'm also wondering what you listening to, because I'm gonna be like, what are you listening to back there, yo? What you got
Yeah.
on? Because it sounded mad soulful and stuff. I'm like, yo, what's that in the back? You know?
You know, we got to stay on
So
the vibe.
yeah, so as you was talking as well, it started making me think about the the drums first or the sample first. How are you making the beats? What were you doing? And or no drums nowadays. How do you like that process? What's the thought on that?
Uh, that's a loaded question. Well, first of all, you know, a lot of those days, yeah, it's really spontaneity, really. You know, I would probably say it more comes from. It could go either way. You know, it
Okay.
might come with a good looped up drum beat, and then the challenge is like to get to something to match within to that, into the sound and the texture, and you know, obviously tempo and things like that. If things line up, you know, a lot of the joints, it was just, you know, everything was like different. Like, you know, the other day somebody mentioned in the gram about talking about Lucifer, which is
Yeah.
like to me one of our, you know, quintessential songs. You know, we always try to make songs like uh, and and it really started with like a simple Eddie Harris loop. You know what I mean? So it's like you take that little piece and what it became, what it turned into. So that would be something that maybe just started with that loop, and then obviously you put the drums on top of it, and that song we did a few different things, which what I was trying to do as a producer was just trying to marry the old and the new,
Okay.
because people don't really speak about it, but I really try to make an effort of like blending those things, like a song like "I'm Gonna Kill You" that has like a live guitar lick in the end, which is kind of commonplace now when people, big performances and do things, and you have your guitar player and drums people behind you.
Right.
But like Lucifer was like using, we use violin on that. We just try to incorporate, this new school sound of the technology that we're dealing with these instruments and sound machines, but also incorporating, that old analog, just people playing, trying to marry both worlds.
Yeah, and that leads to my next question as far as the live instruments. Do you know how to play it, or is it more about just like knowing what you want to hear, being a producer? Because that's how I see you as well. Like you're not just a beat maker, you're a producer. I've been
Mhm.
around you, I've recorded, in front of you. So it's more you give a good guidance about what to do, whether to re-say it over, all of these things. So um do you use the live instruments yourself, or is it just you love giving that guidance for the players that come in?
It's definitely both. We were fortunate to have some lessons coming up. So even being able to understand, I still read music, and if I had to write it, but it's a definitely tedious process. And shout out to all those, composing and putting that together. But it was good just having that as a foundation, or just being immersed into that. But there's so much more into it. I think that was more like basically more like rote learning, where it's like you learn the notes, you play the piece. There's so much more to it in reference to theory and stuff like that. So I say at the end of the day, the role of a producer's job is to kind of foresee what you want. So, if I something that's beyond my capability, it's almost my job to get someone who can handle it. You know what I mean?
Dope, dope.
Because
Yeah,
I think what we're at right now with hip hop, because it's on such a big scale, but I think it always should be, even though it might have started from, like you said, us, really with us and a notepad. It starts from right there. You're by yourself, and then it expands onto there. But it's so much of that goes into it, that you want to be able to have the best at your disposal. You're going to exhaust all your possibilities, but if it's something that you can't do, don't feel no way to hire another, gun in the thing. I always try to say, we all study in the masters, and as brilliant as Bob Marley is, the Wailers behind him, the Barrett
yeah,
brothers and stuff like that, just this complement of this one has the drum, this one has a bass, and that lock, you know what I mean? It says something for the overall sound. So, I just think when it comes to music and like film, it's meant to be a collaborative thing put together. And that's where you can really get some good stuff, because it's just more than what you have at your disposal.
so then when you're producing it, do you scrap the beats or keep them for later, or a lot, have you had that instance when this is trash and then you play it for Breeze or Queen Heroin, and then they're like, yo, that's fire, you wild, like, and then all of a sudden it makes the album and stuff.
I don't even think we have a long enough show to handle that question. You know what I mean? But it's like he's my brother, and I love him. And like I said, we've Jugs have gone through personnel changes and different things over the years. And shout outs to everybody who has contributed in some way, shape, or form. I'm grateful for the universe to be here talking with my brother today about stuff that we worked on almost 30, 40 years ago. But yeah, I think at this point it's I love the art form. You know, and that's why
Okay.
everybody says, it's kind of like the cliche line, like, I don't know why I haven't done a track with my man Words yet. It's just like, these are just things that just happen. We're artists and we're creatives. Like, I'm going to paint regardless. Like,
You read my mind though. I actually have
it's
that.
like I'm
There's a
gonna paint
question on here.
regardless. Like whether I'm putting stuff out or not, and it's like if I'm dealing with likes and they come along and be like, "Yo, Kev, what you working on?" and I play them and you like it and you dig it, then we just go from that point. But it's just like we're creatives. It's like there's a certain
Yeah.
unfortunately, to quote the great Master Ace, disposable arts. Like you know what I mean.
Right.
I can't think of the thousand this Basquiat ideas that he scribbled on a napkin that are worth, millions of dollars, you know what I mean? That to him is just disposable. Like, I got,
Yeah.
as we talk about the MPC, I got zip drives of just years of work. And, obviously we're using different, doors and different things now, but it's just like,
Right.
Breeze and I talk about all of the time, like, and shout out to anyone, get at us with helping how to extract, them old 100 megabyte zip drives and, getting them into the real play world. But we'll figure it out one way or another. But
Yeah.
that is an endless thing. And Breeze and I go at it all of the time. And, it's at the end of the day, he just challenges me. That's what
Yeah.
I think a lot of even like what was caught the brilliance in that first album was just a lot of, shout out to Chris Liggio, who was also working with us at the time and, helped to, obviously bring great ideas to the thing, but also his own study of theory and, the lineage he had in his family. It was, great personnel at the time that put in great work. But I think even the difficulties when you're dealing with stuff, and this, there's a certain fight and struggle and sometimes that fight and struggle makes good music. So you know what
Yeah,
I
for
mean.
sure.
It's hard to go through, and you know what I mean. And this one has this idea and that idea, and obviously everything can't fly. But I just think the competitive nature of trying to make the best music is always
Yep.
gonna hopefully bring out the best product.
So, do you have when you're making a beat? Do you sometimes think about like this joint right here? I'm gonna keep for later. Like you have an idea that maybe an album vision of something you're doing, and you got like a stash of beats that are for some later ideas, or as you're making them, it's coming out like we're gonna use this. You know what I'm saying for yourself? Because some producers can be like, yo, I'm rocking with I got a vision. You know what I'm saying? I got an artist in mind. I got some people have the artist in mind and everything.
Oh yeah, best believe. I think every
Okay.
producer has like a golden box.
Dope.
Best believe. Like you know what I mean. Like gun to the wall. Like my 10 best samples. I'm like go there. You know what I mean. It's word. It's it's D-Day. It's time to open up the safe. But I think at the end of the day, that's what's the
Right.
beauty about it. That we think we have control about it and we don't. It's less like, as they say, man make plan and God laughs. You know what I mean? It's just
Mm,
like we're really not in control of the thing or the music. It's just like I could hear something that's trash and as they say, one thing trash is another one's treasure. So it's
right.
just like, it's funny. I was just as this conversation, because it gets so real with Breeze. Sometimes I don't even send him what I work with, what I'm working on, because I'm like, nigga, yeah, I'm not even saying if you check the email. So I sent him this shit the other day. I'm like, yo, nigga, I'm gonna send you this whack beat. You know what I mean? And he comes back. He was like, yo, I'm feeling that shit. I was like, this nigga always feels the weird shit. You know what I mean? I'm like, not no killer shit that I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, just like sever heads off. He always wants some weird sounding shit. I was like, yo, this dude's weird, man.
I love it. I love it.
But it's what makes good shit, man. He just pushes me a lot. Like you said, he's teaching himself guitar and more theory piano. While I'm teaching myself bass right now. So it's
Nice.
just trying to come full circle with the music. We was all inspired about this great music that we even before hip hop, like
Right.
stylistic, delphonics, and just this magical, as I always say, there's a timeline to this stuff coming out, and hip hop has a there's a layer in all of it. You know what I mean? Like the other
Yeah.
day we was up in the Rule, shout out, now Rule, and they had they've been having these 914 concerts, you know what I mean? And every year it gets bigger, and they had Nice and Smooth this year. And it was
Ooh,
just
that's
like, it was
crazy.
just a masterclass, you know
That's
what I'm saying?
crazy.
And, they're a funny group because bringing in like Pure Blend and what they was doing with the melodies and the singing was a direct correlation to the doo-wop that happened just a step before, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like hip hop brings in all of those elements. Like when you think about that early Jungle Brothers, where there was that sing song type of stuff, that early stuff we was hearing, you know what I mean, with Cold Crush, you know what I mean, and those early tapes, where it was really the vernacular is changing now from some singing thing to now it's coming a more coded type of speech.
Right.
So it was, you know, like I said, what you do effortlessly, you know what I'm saying, is a beautiful thing, but it comes from a long line that goes way back. You know what I mean? As
Right.
you know what I mean?
So, what about when you're writing, right? Do you
Mhm.
like to write to the beat, or do you have some rhymes that's sitting there and you like kind of like make it fit to the beat? What's the preference?
Once again, classic, you know what I mean? Yin and the yang. Breeze is the type of dude that just has, missiles ready. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I'm the other type. Like, I'm going to sit in the studio, for hours and kind of play it on repeat and just kind of like really just try to osmosis get into what the track is trying to tell me, what I'm trying
Okay.
to say on the track. Um, so yeah, it's a different approach for me, you know what I mean? And it kind of little frustrating in the process because it's like I always say, um, hip hop, when you making beats and doing rhymes, it's almost like playing ball and you got to play both sides of the ball. You got to play the offense and the defense. You know what I'm saying? And it's good sometimes just to have a beat where you could sit back and just do the rhyme, because it takes so much out of you to even bring something up to a beat to the table that's up to par, something that we could, you know what I mean, make happen. So for me, I like it both ways. I mean, it's really, once again, you try to listen to the universe and what it says. If something's going to come out that connects and lines up, and it's sounding good, and you're saying something positive and trying to hopefully impart some wisdom, you roll with it. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, for me, it's I make the beat. If I can't rhyme and mumble something to myself, nobody else can. So, you know what I mean? But me, in reference to approach, I would say I would more go with I'd rather hear a beat, and lock into it and then write. For me, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So then, what's the atmosphere like for you writing? You're the morning person or the nighttime? Do you need people around you by yourself?
It's a funny thing because, like I said, for us, you know, 30 plus years doing hip hop, but then 20 plus years, also being the teacher. It's funny. Initially, it was a very hard transition because for us as creatives, I would say, answering your question, I think some of the best ideas happen in the middle of the night when the rest of the world is quiet, where, now everything else is kind of quieted down and I could kind of listen with my own thoughts. So to me, I think some of the best stuff, whether it's beat making, whether it's writing, happens in the middle of the night, when
Yeah.
the rest of the world is quiet, for me. But yeah, I think that's where it thrives, I mean, at the best. It's just hard to do things. There's a thousand things going on in the day, you know what I mean? But once again, it was definitely hard because coming out of, hip hop is paying your bills, and that's a 24/7, 365 job.
Yeah.
There's no going to sleep. You know what I mean? It's like you the phone with the battery. When there ain't no more, you pass out, you get up, and you do it again. Like that's many times we in the studio, crash, get a few hours, get up, you right back at it again. Obviously, that's not conducive to a 9 to 5 lifestyle.
Right.
So you gotta handle that first, and then what I mean, try to find gaps in between to do what we do.
So then, when you're crafting, so how are you crafting today? Are you still writing on paper, computer, phone, in your head? How do you write the verses? Or where do you write the verses too?
You know what? It's so funny. It's just because we're finally trying to have a conversations about a possible next Jug project. So Breeze is like cracking the whip on me. He's like the white sensei on the top of the mountain, and got me. You know what I mean? You know,
Yeah.
running and getting cheesecake, and running around the block with milk gallons and shit like that, and come on, we got verses to write, but yeah, so it's funny when we go through the process of like, yeah, I'm working on some stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I wrote it down, knowing damn well I really write rhymes in my head now, like, you know what I mean, like
Word.
when we've been doing it long enough, and it's not like, oh, I want to try to be like bigger Jay-Z. It's just like,
Yeah.
when you're done, check your 10,000 hours box, you it becomes kind of second nature, you know what I mean? But then that's the challenge when you get older and the memory ain't as sharp as it used to be. So I'm like, damn, I had a line and a connection, and now it's like, maybe it'll come back, maybe it won't. So it's not the most reputable source to work. And and I'm not certified OG. I'm not the one to be up in the phone writing the rhymes, which a lot of people do, and that makes a lot of sense. You know what I
Right.
mean? But it's just not for me. You know what I mean? It's either I get it to a point where I'm happy with a few bars, and then I might write it down. But I would say for the most part, I'm trying to write most things in my head these days.
I wanted to talk about the Use Your Confusion album because I was listening to it and I was like, man, some of these joints, because from coming up doing a lot of our albums and music back then, they didn't get the light that it deserved. I'm listening to the joints on there, man. I'm listening to the Smile joint. I'm listening to for me, the Use Your Confusion record itself is so like global. That sound, the way that beat rock, the drums on it, and just the way the whole thing arranged, the vocals on everything. I was like, yo, this joint right here. I mean, I saw the video, but I mean, like that, it almost feel like it could drop today and like become one of those pop records, like that sound and that. I'm like, yo, this record today is still one of those joints that globally, if people hear it, they're gonna be like, yo, let me go buy that album. And then they'll realize, like, yo, this came out. They'll be like, what? Yo, that song, that might be my favorite song from y'all. Like, I'll listen today and just the swing of the drums and like the way it rocks. So I had to make sure I mentioned that because me hearing that, like us doing a lot of songs throughout the years, we got so many songs we do. And then, you know, you're playing every record. That's what I like to say. It's like lotto, every song we make. You never know which one is what, right? So I'm listening to the album and I'm like, yo, this right here is one of those records that just need to just, because what's dope about today, being that it's the internet and everything, an old record can become new.
I tell Breeze that all the time. I said I'll make a video for any one of our musics today. It's like it's been one of our Achilles' heels. It's like when you're also a group that is just not the regular. Let's throw 20 dudes in the video, and you know what I mean, and smoke out and match out. But that's not what we at, and that's beautiful. I think even these days, what we do, you know what I mean, is even more celebrated. You know what I mean, of dealing with real life music, real just real everyday music. Going back to and thank you for the accolades for Use Your Confusion. But yeah, I definitely think just even that album, even the name it itself. Like, like I wanted to do a spin-off.
And also the artwork. The artwork is fire. Like the merging of all the faces into that artwork is crazy. That in itself, it should be definitely hung on the wall as I got like records on the wall here, but it's the artwork in itself. If you kind of think about it, like now artwork is super important, like that more so than anything, and trying to come with an idea. But that album cover is just dope. How to met like y'all are like, it's just dope. The cover, everybody's face and stuff in there, man. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that too, because
I
creativity.
appreciate that, man. I mean, shout out to the whole team, the Matic team, Nex and the Amalgam team at the time.
Hmm.
Him at the time, he was dealing with, Joe Buttons and Tash and a lot of new things up at Amalgam, and we helped to kind of reinvigorate, that whole imprint and campaign. But it was really just trying to, let the world know that we coming with another full length and try to give it the appropriate, lineup and, roll out the right red carpet. And, was definitely pleased with the direction of where that went on many levels. A lot of different things that we did. It was collaborative. It was a great situation and a great project. You know what I mean? It's funny, even as you mentioned the previous question with how me and Breeze didn't see eye to eye, because that project, he really did his damn thing on
Yeah, I like that. I like that album a lot.
production, because he was just like, yo, I'm just, and I was just like, yo, these joints is incredible, do your thing. But then we started having a clash as to musically, we wasn't finding a balance of what I was working on and what he wanted to work on and stuff like that. And that's kind of what started a little bit of the, a little drift. But but it's funny. That's why the power of Use Your Confusion was like always me as a producer, as an artist, fighting for space and placement, because it's really after doing majority of of a lot of the work on the first album to really doing like 1/10 of it on Use Your Confusion.
Right.
One, because he was really on just a beautiful streak, production wise. Like, he was really showing his ass, that project. And then, as we always do, we reach out to all the super friends like Jay Zone,
Right.
who hit up with the Crazy Eights. Breeze and I did have some collaborative work on it, like your joint Liar Liar. So we could have been better. We talk about it obviously in retrospect of how it could have been better, but I think it's a funny joint that really was kind of telling where we were in the world, like that, where that album was coming out. We had just kind of started the 9 to 5 life, and it was kind of saying, we just got to use this just out of survival. That's where it came
Yeah.
from. Like the Use Your Illusion, I think Pink Floyd was the joint I was trying to use a spin off of that, but it was just like, nah, we got to use this confusion. It's odd and it's awkward to us, but we got to use it. So it's like when I hear it in different walks of life, of just like, you make, life give you lemons, you make lemonade. It's the same sort of thing. It's just sometimes you got to go an unconventional route in order to get to, the desired goal. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But yeah, it's an interesting song. The production, it was,
The
I was
album,
I was
man.
fighting for it, and that was, and it's funny, like the one track I get would be the title track, but it was just like, it was really, it's the whole track is just hilarious, because like I said, me and Breeze is going at it. I'm throwing shit. He's like, Wonder Man bracelets, just blocking shit. No, I'm not feeling that. I'm not feeling that. You know what I mean? And it was just like, I literally had the whole family advocating for this one beat, because everybody's like, yo, you heard that shit that Kev did? That shit is different. You know what I mean? And it was like, and we talk about it now because it's like classic hip hop form. It's like a Henry Mann flute sample played at different octaves, but just like the approach to the
Mhm.
beat was like so old school on the lunch table type shit. Like that was the doom, doom, dun, 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 and I was just like,
Woo! Yeah,
and you
that
just
joint
start
is
building off of
crazy.
like, because like that's when I produce. Like I said before, I'm taking from this little string sound over here, this conga sound over here. Then it just started creating its own rhythm out of just that. You know what I mean?
That joint
So
is crazy, yo.
so for me, it was like funny. It was like my first time of really trying to sing on a track. You know what I mean? Because it was just like, it just kind of like came to me. It was just like, it's funny. Like you said, we go through our ups and downs. I was like, that's low key like a suicide note. You know what I mean? And then later on, it's just like, oh shit, that shit was like a prayer. It's just like, it's like you're reaching out. But that's the beautiful thing of our art form, and I think what we try to do as a hip hop group, of like touch some layers that maybe people ain't talking about, like a song like Lucifer that talks about mental instability and
Right.
trying to keep it all together and losing it. Like shout out to Rich Keller, you know, world-renowned engineer who worked on that project and played live guitar on it. You know what I mean? For the, you know, what I believe is a mega hip hop song. You know what I mean?
Man, let me tell
Yeah,
you, man.
the confusion was yeah. People need to look back at that one, man. Breeze
Yo,
got
I'm
busy.
telling you, that song was ahead of its time. It's one, like I said, it could come out today, and the swing of that record is just, it's one of those records that you would think is on the radio already, or it's that global. So yeah, man, that's gonna probably be my favorite joint. That's probably my
Yeah.
favorite joint. But
Yo, and real talk to me too, as like some modern day shit, you know, but like you said, that whole album being what it is and where it was like Breeze just, like I said, laceration. But that particular track, just as a producer and fighting, like we all see it with all groups, like even the great Wu-Tang, you know, when it wasn't all RZA and you're getting different things. It's just like, you know, Breeze was talking about some shit where Ghost was talking about it the other day. It was like, yo, I'm trying to get stuff done, and the tracks, like there's always gonna be, you know, some
yeah,
sort of impasse creatively. And you know, you as a producer, you just try to take it on the chin. There's just so much great art that comes out. But I'm confident in what I do, and especially if I'm doing what I do, you know what I mean? You know, it could be some good things, but
yeah.
it's always it's the hip hop family. Like even that Use Your Confusion song alone, quick story with it.
Okay.
I'm working on the synth sound for it, right? So I'm in the
Mhm.
studio working on it. So Jess West just comes over to say what's up. The legend, the Jedi himself. You know, for us from the area of the Northeast Bronx where we from, it was always like for me, like paying homage. Like, you know
With
what
the
I mean?
iconic voice,
The
not
the
to
the,
mention, not
the
to mention his
iconic
voice.
voice, third
Voice
eye,
is
shout out
crazy.
9 M, you know what I mean? That's family right there. So he comes over one day on the humble. I'm working on the joint. He's like, yo, that sound pretty good. Yeah, and all that. And he's always a hard critic. Like, you know what I mean? I remember playing beats for like, you know what I mean? You know, Wes, it was like, you know, your father reading the essay he asked you to write. It was like, oh God, what is he going to say? You know what I mean? It was like, I
Yeah.
always held him in just like high regard. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, he's just Wes. You know what I mean? So
Right.
he comes over and he plays the line. Like I'm thinking of like the melody, and I know I have the right song, and then he goes, I was like, that's it.
Yo.
That's it. Like you don't fight the feeling. You know what I mean? I could have been like,
Yeah.
nah, I want to do it. I want to be my melody. I'm like, nope. That's it right there. Shout out to Jess West. I appreciate the
Yeah.
assist. You know,
Just
it
West
was.
also with the vocals, the singing, all of that. He's just like an all around music
Oh
genius.
man, I mean, he has helped us out on so many occasions. I mean, I
Musical
think
genius.
Herawin's first album, he mixed a lot of stuff, mastered a lot of stuff. You know, everybody, you know, you help when you can. You know what I mean,
Right.
and shout out to you know what I mean, all the family, especially Brother West. You know what I mean, for always, you know what I mean, you know, sharing his brilliance with us. You know what I mean.
So your writing style, right? When I hear you rap, you're straight to the point. So when I had, Heroin on here, she was like, she's the hybrid of both of y'all. So she's the mixture of that. And she was saying like your joint, boom, straight to your face, clear clarity, and then Breeze is more with the words, a lot more words and putting things like that. He bounces around with the flow. So
Mm-hmm.
how did you what was your influence, being the oldest? How did you figure out like this is my style right here and become you?
I mean, you know, it's funny. I just uh, we could just be who we are, you know what I mean? And I just kind of, you know, write with, you know, obviously different style from Breeze. And, you know, I would say
Right.
Heroin is definitely a hybrid of us both of just kind of, you know, some when we write, it's like impactful things, like making sure that first line is hitting, make sure that last line is lit. And, you know, it's like things like that. I try to set up just like impact from the start, you know, what I
Yeah.
try to be, what my personality is. It's like, you know, I'm gonna, you know, I'm here. You know what I mean? But you know, it's definitely learning from masters like yourself of just trying to get more intricate with it. You know, I saw her setup, and you know, shout out to the queen. Like, you know, just so proud of her. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, she's really, you know, I don't even know where we would be without her. Like, she's just so friggin' amazing. You know, when you talk about like writing styles, like her first verse coming out on that "Who Makes It Hot" reminds me of like, Nas live at the barbecue. It's like
Yeah.
Kid Hood. It's like, you talk about I'm here. That's like I've arrived. You know what I mean? Like, here I am, world. So, I just try to keep up with the likes of, those two dragons. You know what I mean? I try to do what I do. But once again, like I said, there are different iterations,
Yeah.
to this form. And I think I borrow a little bit from the past and try to keep one foot in the old world and one foot in the new. Because at the end of the day, nobody want to hear nobody, hey y'all, and all
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
once again, if it works, it works. You know what I mean? Once again,
Yeah.
all of it is the fabric of it. If you could pull a Melly Mel, ha ha, up in there and it makes sense, you make it
Nah.
work. You know what I
Oh,
mean? It's part of
yeah.
what we do. It's part of this tapestry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I would
it's
say
all
from
there for
listening
us.
to, yeah, what's dope about hearing you rhyme is that it's not a dated style at all. It's a conversation style of saying how you feel. So when you rap, it's just like, this is what it is. You know what I'm saying? There's no having this is what it is. Hey, boom, it's straight to the point. And yeah, it transitions to what's going on now with everything. So how long did it take you to write a rhyme or a song and making beats? What's the time frames on and all of these kind of things?
Oh man, I'll quote my father, X amount. You know what I mean? Because it's so funny. Once again, we're all creatives out here, and I think we're all our own worst critic. We all want to make the best, music and have the best offering out into the world. But sometimes, songs are written in years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm recording a reggae album right now, and some of these songs is over 10 years old. You know what I mean?
Wow.
When whoever hears it, if and when it comes out, um it'll be what it'll be. But these are things that we do over numerous times. I mean, a song and a beat, it's a little different. A beat, I'm going to do it to a point where it has all the elements that I think it can work with something. Like for
Yeah.
me, it goes back to what you were talking about, the loopless beat. Like I love it, but I also think it's very lazy. Like, you know what I mean? If I'm trying to go against the heavyweights, like, hip hop shouldn't be an exception to not have the elements that's necessary for a complete song. You know
Gotcha.
what I mean? Like, I think we should even elevate. Like, I think about like the great minds like Barry White, who incorporated orchestra. Like, where would hip hop be if we just made sure we applied some of those elements to our stuff? You know what I mean? Because even when we do bring in those elements, like we said before, whether it's instruments, but I think we can go even far beyond, because once again, it's our hip hop mind that hears something that might be like, yo, I could flip that maybe a little bit of a different way. Um, but for a beat, I try to get it to a point that it has all of those elements, that it has a bass, because the challenge is the bass. You know what I mean? With anything else, like, shout out Kai Brewin, you know what I mean? And my son, who also works on tracks. It's a challenge, and in life, there's no shortcuts. And almost like the loopless beat is almost like a shortcut. Of course, it's going to be brilliant. You know what I mean? Dope
Yeah.
loops is a dope loop is a dope loop. It does what it does on its own. Now the challenge now, can you take that and provide the elements? As we talk about the equipment back in the days, one of the greatest things the EPS had was the filter function. I just take that highs out, got a bass line, good to go. You know what I mean? But obviously we have to evolve. You know what I'm saying? When you talk about like the use your confusion thing, yeah, the rhythm was great, but then now you better make sure that bass is riding up in there. This is life music. You know what I mean? I got to be able to hear this in my gut. I got to hear this in my soul. And if that don't have no bass now, that's a challenge for me as a producer to make sure that I do that. But
So
to keep it
mhm.
real, sometimes we're better than others. There's gonna be some beats that are just skeletons that I leave as it is. Maybe even in a just a loop phase, because I'm exhausted with it at that time. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? I'm on to something else. You know what I mean? So I think it fluctuates. You know what I mean? But versus songs can be written for years. I would say beats is maybe a faster turnaround. And versus for me, like I said, uh, um, I'm at this point a reluctant MC. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I think even a lot of times you hear it, and it's funny even just in the universe and in the sound. Like Trouble Man's the first joint off of the this re-released album. But it's funny. We used to have a song back in the day. Shout out to Baby Pictures. We put out like some early formative before Jug years, like on some limited release in London at one time called Baby Pictures, and we had a song called Next of Kin
Mm.
because let's keep it real. Like, let me show you the transition of this. I started this. Shout out to my man Sam, DJ Essence, and it was him and I. He was the DJ, I was the MC. We ran that for a little while. Breeze is still young. I'm still fighting, coming up with songs, but Breeze is realizing and seeing this. From the first time the brother opens his mouth, I was like, oh yeah, he's different. He's different. I'm like, we now it became a different approach. It was just
Right.
like, okay, well, let's do the things I'm good at. I could find studios, I could set up, I could get us time, I could make beats and stuff like that. But now I'm already from then thinking I'm gonna rhyme sparingly. Because it's just like you gotta let that brilliance shine. Like, get out of the
Yeah.
way. Get out of the way. You know what I mean? Like it was funny. I remember when we did I'm Gonna Kill You. Originally I was on the hook because like, yeah, kill man coming out his face, but it was just like, what's best for the music? Like you heard that Breeze take, that locks better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's what's best for the music. A lot of times the egos get in the way. You know what I mean? It's like hip hop is always the champion here. You know what I mean? So it's like, what's going to be best for the music? You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and that goes with the question that you're asking. I think it's a lot of things lining up at the same time. Sometimes we get luckier than others. Sometimes it's just straight workman stuff. I know you have done projects that we have just worked through. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's where, as the first album, we were having fun, different energies, and just experimenting. But with User Confusion, it seemed more of like a arduous, kind of like a work type of situation as opposed to, you know what I mean, being, having fun with it, But it was also a different time in our life. So,
Right.
unfortunately, it gets harder before it gets easier.
So what about the revision process? What's that like? Like, oh, I gotta fix this. Or hey, it is what it is.
That's the devil. You know what I mean? The devil's in the details. And I think also it's one step from paradise and one step from paralysis. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Because I think we all have great ideas. That's one of the great things I love that I've always seen from behind the scenes, and I'm like, yo, really shout out to Brother V, like getting books done and doing different things. Like execution is so important when you even mention the word revision because I think us as artists we could work forever. It's maybe never done. So
Yeah.
it's really a fine line between it's good, it's ready to go, or I could go back again. You know what I mean? I know MCing, shout out to Breeze, like people hear what comes out, but they don't see the behind the scenes that he's in the crib with like 30 different, edits that he has to get it to that point. Like you
Yeah.
might be hearing edit 47, not the work that he did at the crib. All that line needs to tighten up. It's just like, so, and unfortunately that's the thing I'm not good at. You know what I mean? Like I'm good for like the first right out the gate. Then it's just like, all right, let me go chill. You know what I mean? It's just like, so it's definitely, that's where the work, that's where the discipline is at, as they say, the devil's in the details. The beats the beats kind of speak to you in themselves, and like I said, you could go as far as you can take it. That's why I think right now with hip-hop being such a big business, you know what I mean, someone with Kanye, you might have 12 minions working on different stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah, he's executing in his mind what he wants because at the end of the day, you're a producer and you want to see it through. But
Right.
that revision, it's a scary thing because it could be great. There's some stuff like you know, you and I, and of course we love this art form. We hear stories about different songs and how they came into existence. You know what I mean? Like who was I hearing the other day? This shit was Stevie Wonder. So he came out with a song, and it was the Rough, and he sends it to Berry Gordy, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do some stuff on it." He was like, and Berry Gordy's like already calling, like, you know, the promo and the press people ready to like put it on the conveyor belt. You know what I
Right.
mean? And it's just like, so you know, the artist is always gonna feel like, oh, I can revise it and get it better, but then you know, money people and money minds think differently. You know what I mean? Like, nah, I got let's go with that. And I think that's the balance with all of us, you know, and especially those of us who have to play both sides, where you're the artist as well as the business on the other side. You know, is this ready to go? You know.
But I think also that's the genius of me knowing you and then you being in the group, but also knowing you making music is that if you tell me something, I'll do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause
Mm.
I trust your production process, and it's okay. Like, it's okay if it don't work out, we just hit the delete button. But I'm gonna try. I'm gonna be like, yo, Kev said do that. Let me try it. Kev said, yo, maybe do this. I'm gonna do it because what does it hurt to do it? You know what I'm saying? And I trust your view, your perspective, your experience. So that's what was dope about you being a producer. See, for me, I know you too. So people might not know because they haven't worked with you and stuff. So I've seen you and been in the studio and recorded. So I've seen you make judgment calls or something, or yo, you might start here, you might do this, turn that down, do this. So that's the reason why I wanted to have you on here. It's because I'm not sure how many people know that you coaching. Yo, nah, let's such bring it up court. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Nah, fall back. Yo, defense ain't good. Where we at? We got, you know what I'm saying? So that's really what one of my main reasons was having you on the show. I got a few more questions though, but I definitely want to acknowledge that because um I hear what you're saying and people are hearing what you're saying, but they don't know what it's like till they experience to really appreciate what you do to bring these dope songs to us, man. So I want to make sure I mention that. Um,
I so appreciate you for saying that, brother. And like I said, you know, obviously, you know, we all have a journey, and it's just funny how our journey happened because, like I said, really the Juggernauts was really the spinoff of a lot of production that I was doing that people don't even realize. Like, you know, they don't put the two and two together. You know what I mean? And it's a funny long story, um, but let's just say, you know, it was a lot of other production opportunities that I was doing with the likes of shout out to Terry Monica, who was used to be called the Girls. They
dope.
had a project that came out on Epic, and I did the first two singles out the gate. Um,
Oh snap! See, I don't know this. That's what I love
oh,
doing this
say
for.
word. I thought, you know what I mean. The family had schooled you on these things. Yeah, man. That's kind of like the part of the story that like people don't realize. Like,
Yeah,
shout out Terry and Monica. They were the background singers for Albie Shaw. They came out in the '80s called the Girls. If it's games you playing, dope single that we all loved. And then they came out on Epic, and just funny thing is, I was happening. It was shout out, the team at the time. But basically, I was, you know, shopping tracks in the industry, and shout out Crystal Johnson, who was basically used to work at Uptown, and you know, she kind of took me under her wing, and was just like, you know, I could get these tracks sold. And
dope.
you know, I was basically coming from Uptown, you know, just trying to hear, you know, the music in a different light. You know, Manhattan got a different vibe,
Yeah.
and so that was that. And
What's the name of the single again? Because I want to go listen to it after this.
it's called Terry and Monica. The song's called And the second single was called Intentions. Shout
I'm gonna
out to
listen to
Heavy
that.
D, who gave it a shout out in the video, in the beginning of Intentions, and even the people that was in the Aha video. Like, it's funny, Brett Ratner um, directed the video. Shout
Wow.
out Dodd from Uptown, a brother. I don't know if people know Dodd. Motto. You know what I mean? Uptown cat. Bryce from Groove Theory.
Groove Theory. Yep.
It's hilarious, and a young KevFevr. And so basically, the whole Juggernaut shit started with me getting all this production work. Like, she's already in the industry pushing for Puffy, and she has the connects, different studios and different people. So she just started managing me, and then, like, the rest is history. I did Billy Lawrence's title track on her first album, One Might Say, who ended up doing a big song with Rampage. Shout out to the St. Louis Doll. And a lot of work. That's the greatest work in the industry as a producer. I got paid my full market value for tracks that never came out. You know what I mean? It's the
Yeah.
best job, because the producer gets paid first. You establish your cuts, and whatever the numbers are. It was a great job. So I think at the time I had done the work with like, I've worked with Angie Stone, Andrea Martin, R.I.P. You know what I mean? The songstress. Like, I put out an R&B album on the low that's only out on called KevFevr's Anti-Valentine album. Just paying respect to the work and those days that I worked. I worked with Miss Jones, Horace Brown, like, a lot of cats, and it was crazy. So they came to me one time. They were like, "Well, what else you got?" I'm like, "I kind of have this family group that I've been working on for forever called the Juggernauts." So
Right.
it was Merlin Bob from East West. Sylvia Rome was the president. And that was that. But
Man.
it was
See,
really
it's
from all the
crazy.
production work, though.
Yeah, that's bananas. One, because of course, um, it's so ill like today, right? We
Mm-hmm.
we love hip hop and all of that stuff. But I think I remember, me, even at 15, 14, 15, I'm buying the R&B albums. I was heavy with
Yeah,
I'm getting Levert. I went and bought the Gerald Levert solo album. I'm getting all the
please, man.
R&B was just as big of a deal to get the rap album that dropped and to get the R&B album. Now it's like, you ain't doing that probably, but R&B at that time coming up for me, high school was just as important getting that and the rap album. So
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. It was kind of what we did, as we would get obviously hip hop albums and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But the good joints we would cop as well. Like I said,
yeah,
even those days, I was running around with Casey and JoJo. Those are some wild boys. But it was like everybody had that Jodeci tape. You know what I mean? It was
yeah,
just like like you said, it's the same way you had an Alcoholics tape or this tape. You definitely had that Jodeci tape. Best believe that
yeah,
God tape. Best believe you had that God tape. You know what I mean? So,
right.
shout outs to, like I said, all the greats that just forever keeps us motivated and inspired, and you know keeping this music and this art form and this culture and this people alive, man. You know what I mean?
So speaking of the art form and keeping it alive, what do you think of AI? Using AI today, or what's the thought on that?
I think it's dangerous, man.
Mm,
I think it's inevitable, but that's why it's the funny thing. Like I said, my day job, I teach Python. So I
mm,
teach coding, you know what I mean, in middle school. So it's I know the power of it, and I think we all have to understand that as well, because it's so easy. You could take my voice, your voice, go spit something, and you have to really listen with a discern ear. And how do you really discern from it? You
right.
know what I mean? It's totally copying your thing. It's copying your style. It's like it's a dangerous thing. You could basically fabricate whatever you want, with whoever's voice, and that could be anything. You know what I mean? Voice activation, getting in people's homes, whatever the case may be. So it's dangerous, but books have been, written about this, films have been written about this,
Right.
shout out to BX's own Stanley Kubrick, one of my favorite directors. I low key be writing, screenplays and like that, and trying to get, Matic into Matic films and things like that, but one step at a time. But Space Odyssey and different books have been written about, the potential, it could become a big problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I had two more questions, but you kind of opened up another door for me with tell us about the label and these other things that you're writing and
Yeah, I mean, once again, from the words of the great Breezy Brewin, we was talking today, and he was kind of he went out to that Oodles of O's joining the city, and and he was just like, it's just good to see team come together and executing, and well known you've been part of great initiatives, where it takes team, and I think that's what it's always about, getting good people to come together. But once again, drugs, we tend to do things the hard way, unfortunately, sometimes, like a lot of us. And it's a lot of things to address. I always call it like the three-headed monster, because the
yeah.
artist side is one monster. We also own a studio, so keeping up with like plugins and just keeping up with just studio is another situation. You know what I mean? Obviously, creating situations, licenses, doing it ourselves.
Yeah.
And then for these last few years, I've tried to get busy like my man and get in front of the camera. I actually did some acting on this film with the brother Leo, cat who was in Bronx Tale, and
Yeah.
he came with this movie called Sleepyhead. Shout out to my man James Hilga, the director and writer of the movie. This movie called Sleepyhead. So
That's out now? That's already out?
he's finished the movie. I think he's looking for distribution at this present moment. But
Oh,
it was Terrell Hicks was in it. Went a little back and forth with him. So acting has always been a thing, but it's like I said, when we do this thing called hip hop, it's kind of dictates a lot of the time and the energy. But
right.
these days you gotta kind of have a diversified portfolio. I've always wanted to dabble into the acting and as well as writing screenplays and stories. It's funny, I tell
Dope.
people all the time, the first line ever written about Juggernauts included film. The dude who wrote about us in the source, who gave us a 3.5, the first line he ever said, if these niggas wasn't doing, or these brothers wasn't doing hip hop, they'd be dope filmmakers. So I
Yeah.
thought that was an interesting comment, because obviously we try to build our music, theatrical, and like I said, the old and the new, and all of that, but always just try to make the biggest and best hip hop songs. I think that's what we all try to do. You know what I mean? So
So as far as like collaborating and with your production, are you looking into like putting out like more like an entire collaborative project with another artist and you doing like so people could kind of like see you putting out a whole album with these artists? Because I like seeing those, I like hearing those albums when it'd be like, what I'm saying, your joint, just all the beats on all the joints, and like, yo, he sound ill with that person and this and that. Never would have guessed. Are you interested in doing more of that?
oh yeah, definitely. I mean, as once again, I just try to listen to the universe. I don't try to force nothing. Whatever is gonna come, it's gonna come in its own time. And things have definitely like it's funny that I think the most work I've done outside or after Jugs was my man Chief of the Tribe out of Brooklyn. Shout out my man Trizzy. And we record like that was my J. Rue the Damage album. You know what I mean? Like, Primo had Gangstar, and then he came out with this
Right.
like Invisible album with like J. Rue. Like that was my J. Rue album. Unfortunately, like, we didn't finish it up. Because a lot of times you learn from early on. That's why I say, yeah, be independent, doing your own thing, but really all of that
Yeah.
falls on you. And maybe I wasn't ready for the weight at that time. You know what I'm saying? You getting help from, different things and machines and helping get the jugs out, but then completely doing it on your own. And we would learn that lesson later, putting
Yeah.
out, what I mean, like Ray Fogue, shout out Ray Fogues and, the O&N album. Um, but you learn as you go along. That was early on, and you're still very much in the creative process. But I'm always open. Shout out to my brother Proven. I think we might have about half an album or three-quarters of an album done. We're trying to finish up
Dope.
with. He's a brother that's out here doing his thing. He comes by the studio, we hang out. You know what I mean? And like I said, I'm an artist. I paint. Somebody hear it, you dig it, you want to rock to it. You know what I mean? Make it happen. But we have a slew of artists here at Matic that we're trying to get off the ground. Different cats, different energies. It's a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? I have cats that know we're dope, but then just life happens and they go in different. And I know you know it too. I mean, we all know it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a thousands of just regular blue collar people just walking around that are incredible, but just
For
would
real.
rather not deal with the drama or whatever, or not have, what I mean, whatever the case may is. You know what I mean? We at an age right now, you know what I mean, where it's about peace of mind. Yeah, everybody want to do this, but as you know, this is a work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So and if you want to do it right and pay respects to it, there's no shortcuts. You don't want to do it half-ass. So whether that's Jugs or somebody else, I just want to make sure I'm giving forth my best effort. But they are definitely different things as you talk about the old sounds. It was funny. Shout out Terry and Monica. I have one of the pictures they wrote for me, when we was doing work. She was just like, old joints will make new papes, because I've had this album I've been working on for forever called Nights on the Boulevard. Our studio is here, you know what I mean, in the Bronx on the Boulevard. So it's called Nights on the Boulevard. And it's just different cats over the years I've worked with, put it out,
Mhm.
So hopefully I get to bring that out, because sometimes resurrecting those old material takes time and you have to bring it up to, upgrade. But I hope it gets a chance to come out, because it just shows me at an experimental time dealing with different artists, you know what I'm saying? A lot of cats out here in the X, some we know, some we don't know, but that was kind of like my chronic, you know what I mean, that I never really finished up for whatever reason. But I'm always open, man. I just think I just love the art form. I love the challenge, you know what I mean? If me and Words was to do a project tomorrow, I'm like, I'm gonna come with it, you know what I mean? Like any producer,
Yeah.
approach artist first and foremost, and be like, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to say? You know what I mean? How you
That's
want to do
that's what I that's what I love about doing music today.
it?
Is the fact that we could do music and then like we don't got to worry about, you know, some red tape and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to make sure we, we do that. I got one last question for you. All right.
Yes, sir.
So what's the what's the studio setup that you have and that you would maybe recommend you need to have, like your go-tos in the studio, so these producers can get an idea of how you get this dynamic sound that you've crafted, that's iconic for you, that you made your own sound? What do you suggest?
I'm really just learning as we go along. You know what I
Okay.
mean? I'm kind of like you know, I'm kind of like a no ID cat. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, trust what you know. You know what I mean?
Right.
And obviously we just everything we have to come up to scale. I mean, I'm happy. Peace out to my brother D from Attic Studios, who's been kind of really helping to upgrade the whole setup, because we were at time, you've been to our studio before, where we spent a
Yeah.
lot of money, you know what I mean, Avalon, and a lot of outboard gear that at the time you would spend a lot of money for. Now
Right.
these days that's a plug and away. So it's really just trying to get our whole studio set up straight, and we're at a good place right now. But like everything else, you go through different iterations. There was that time our studio was like had automation and stuff like that, and this was unheard of, you know what I mean, for regular spots. But we invested the time and the money in order to educate ourselves, in order to get it right, not only for us, but different brothers we was rocking with. But that is what it is. We're trying to open a second spot now, because our joint is more word of mouth and kind of like fam, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like for the whole studio spot. And I've been robbed in the studio before. So, I'm not
wow.
about, just kind of having an open door and just letting anybody in. So, the original home base will, just kind of be more for, creation and, you know what I mean? And really, fam, coming in and doing it up. But, maybe possibly try to open up a second spot that's more open to the public.
Cool. Yo, so Kev, man, it's been an honor having you, man. I appreciate you, the music you crafted and the music you're creating now, and you sitting on albums that we want to hear. You sitting on these projects. I can't wait to hear those. And I want to let you know that we really appreciate you making all this dope, timeless music for us. Can you let people know your social media?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. Juggernauts, Matic, everything. It's what is it? At the Juggernauts, you know what I mean? Look up, shout out Breeze Brewin, shout out Queen Herawin. Look those up. You should find us. That's basically best way, I guess, now to get at us. But thanks to you. I so appreciate you, brother. All of these years, you know what I mean? Being like a brother.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? To myself, Brewin, you know what I mean? And of course, the Queen. It's just watching you do your thing and just seeing everything progressing, whether it be the books, the podcasts, you know what I mean? Of course, first and foremost, the art form. So shout out to you. Appreciate the time and the opportunity today. And you know what I mean? And obviously, man, for all of us, just, strive to make the best hip hop that we can make,
Is there anything that's coming up that you want people to get now or like coming out soon? Anything people to listen to? I definitely get the re-release. I know that.
Yeah, I mean, if you could get your hands on them, I don't know. All these things are quick limited runs. I don't know what's available still, but please, try to get out that. Still look out for all stuff on all streaming services, like, the Use Your Confusion album we mentioned before. The Breeze Hindsight album, you got to go down the rabbit hole. We've been here for a long time. We've done a lot of work with a lot of brilliant people like the brother I'm spending time with today. But, a lot of things in the work. Like you said, try to do better with execution, get these old albums out, new albums out, new offer, new artists, new offerings, God spare the life, we able to have the strength and the liberty to do what we need to do,
So that's how we're going to end it, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. This has been another great episode, great guest. Support, make sure you get everything. And like always, what are your words worth? Peace, y'all.
Peace.
Yeah, awaken the sleeping giant, no denying. The dormant state took a while like heavy sheets drying. Absorbing like water environment, internalized a bit. So I had to sit and close my eyes a bit.